Chers collègues, bonjour et bienvenue et toujours mon ami Monsieur Shannon, merci pour l'invitation d'adresser mes collègues de santé. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Shafiq Qaadri, the privileged honor of being a family doc and involved in a lot of different things, CME, etc. I'd like at the outset to thank my honorable colleague Mitchell Shannon for the invitation to address you at this particular gathering. I was offered the topic, as you can see, of physician-pharma interactions. But of course, one of the things you learn early in politics is that you kind of say what you want to say, irrespective of the billing or the title, and I'll likely follow that particular suit. In any case, what I am about to share with you in terms of the physician-pharma interactions, and no doubt you could do a PhD on this whole topic, multiple PhDs, is of course a personal view. At the outset, I'd like to offer what I consider to be one of my kind of favorite quotations in the healthcare space, and that is, healthcare is the most scientific art and the most artistic science. And of course, within that particular quotation, within the thoughts that are embedded here, there are opportunities, there are terrors, there are challenges, and so on. I'll give you an example. When, of course, we release all our noble, blessed, scientifically validated p-value 0.05 information out into the public space, to the public domain, to patients, of course, what they do with that, how they encapsulate that into their own lives is something quite different. I'll give you an example. For example, we heard earlier from the Shoppers Drug Mart crew, Kun Lung and others, how there's a drop-off of filling prescriptions, adherence, retention, sort of staying on medications, say 6 months, 1 year out, and so on. And we as family docs, irrespective of all of the education that we have, the nasty, intense posters that I have around my office to put the fear of cardiovascular death into my patients, whatever, despite all of that, patients will come back and their numbers, say, will be sky high in any indice that you can measure, whether it's blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar, maybe even their waist circumference, weight, BMI, etc. And you'll say to the patient, what happened? You were doing so well. And they'll say to you, well, I was on vacation. And you go, yeah, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was on vacation, so I didn't take my medications. I took a vacation from them also. And, you know, patients just have this incredible direction. I have patients who will only take their cardiovascular medications either on the weekend or on the weekday, or I only take my blood pressure medication when I feel it. And I thought, well, that's quite a skill. You know, that's probably worth a franchise or two. But in any case, so the point is there's an art to the delivery of medicine way beyond all the fancy publications and the fancy things that we tend to do. So my first question is, doctors learn, and it's of course assuming doctors do learn, but doctors learn about new treatments from reading top medical journals, medical post ads, from drug reps, from patients, CNN. There you go. So again, we can no doubt parse this information in different ways. I think the MedPost folks will be somewhat disappointed to see that 2% there. But in any end, we thank you on behalf of all physicians across the country, those of you who believe that we're kind of immediately when we go home read the top medical journal and so on, and the particular articles that have been released, as opposed to, for example, increase our scores on Temple Run or Call of Duty. But I think this also highlights the number 3 response, the 53% with regard to drug reps. I think that's very important, and I would suggest that the pharma world has not only a duty, a responsibility, and a marketing opportunity, and a way to move more product and, you know, denude those warehouses in Indiana, whatever. There's a lot of opportunity that we need to continue to engage on. So what I would suggest to begin with is, in my various guises through my own trajectory through healthcare, as a medical student, as a new graduate, as an overworked FP, as a KOL, as a CMA lecturer, and now as a legislator in the government of Ontario, what I would simply say on behalf of all of those various hats to pharma is this: thank you, pharma. Because I think that as an industry, you are not recognized enough. Your achievements are not celebrated enough. What you have done in order to not only introduce new disease states, but to help educate and help it with regard to adherence and compliance and the main ProC programs and all the different ways that you interact with not only physicians but also with the public. Because at the end of the day, while no doubt many, many different interests are being served, at the end of the day, we are hopefully collaborating to move forward and move the patient outcomes to a better place. And I wish that some of your organizing bodies, whether it's RxND or others, actually captured some of that energy and the benefit, and that you would actually celebrate not only yourselves, but hopefully through others more over time. I'll give you a very quick example. I think Mitch is giving me the evil eye just in terms of time, so I will go a little more rapidly. I think in the Prozac, Zoloft, Eli Lilly, Pfizer launch in, I guess, 20 years ago, whenever it was, I remember being sent up to one of the bays, North Bay or Thunder Bay. We have a lot of bays in Ontario. In any case, whichever it was, and I happened to be presenting to a large group of physicians, and I'd gone on about depression, and I thought it was very emotional and very compelling, and depression, new illness that family docs too can deal with, and it doesn't always have to be referred to a psychiatrist. Many of the folks, the physicians, came up to me afterward and said, "What are you talking about, depression? I have patients, their x-rays are fine, the MRI is fine, the blood work's fine, so why shouldn't they be fine?" And it was remarkable to me that there were still physicians practicing, in the 20th century who still had that very hard scientific, if it's not in the blood test, then it doesn't exist at all. So that's just a very small example of how we collectively, you particularly, have changed the pharmaceutical and the patient care space. This is a photograph of my main consultation room in my medical office. I can assure you that it is considerably neater for the purposes of this photograph than it usually is. Other than, various things on the walls and the degrees, what I'm trying to show you is the many, many different educational tools. Some of them models, some of them kind of whirly things that I think the Voltaren folks gave me long ago, and it was just in terms of arthritis. And just to show some of them, whether it's thyroid, asthma, arthritis, and so on. But these are just some of the age-old or old age or previous generation educational tools that are out there. They're still tried and true. I will refer to all of these on a daily basis. They really do have an impact on the patient. Sometimes, of course, they're inevitably waiting for the busy doc, so they will actually start, filtering through, flipping through some of these things on their own, and that will be conversation starters. So again, I thank you for these types of tools that are out there. And God bless the folks who made this particular poster. What is an ulcer? What is a gallbladder? Where are the stones? I kind of tried to debrand it, but I'll release it. It's from AZ, AstraZeneca, once upon a time. But again, these types of educational tools are brilliant. And if you have them strategically located across the office, it not only conversation starters, but helps to reinforce the diagnosis and helps to get that buy-in from the patients. Now, when patients come to doctors, we are writing their CC, their chief complaint. So that's kind of a big doctor word, as I'm sure you know. My chief complaint with reference to the pharma world is that despite all the various e-communications we get, despite the websites that are out there, despite some slow and steady and measured steps towards the digitalization and digital engagement of healthcare, we are, I think, still analog in a digital age. I mean, compare yourselves to any consumer industry, whether it's banking or, by the way, Starbucks or, buying movie theaters or Chapters, Amazon, whatever. We are still largely analog in a digital space, digital age, and I think we need to change. And I think that's going to be part of the way the pharma world is going to engage not only through physicians, but pharmacists, dentists, other healthcare providers, and then ultimately to the patients and the general public. So my suggestion or my humble request, and perhaps this is a launch of another conference topic, we need to go digital. I'll give you an example. I don't just mean the types of things that are out there, kind of these dead websites which you, the company from Montreal, and 4 other people and your mother go to. I'm talking about the engagement that is on a daily basis. So we are now talking about the big word is POC, or point of contact, meaning something in the physician's hand that, or even the nurse's hand, that is launched out to the patient. So there are different platforms that are available. This is one from the Liberate folks, where there's a bank of, let's say, the top 50 or 100 conditions, and you can actually go through the different, kind of a prefabricated slide module. It's up to you whether you use them all or pick and choose, cherry pick through them. Another one that's actually being demonstrated out there, this is the IMD platform. So in this particular patient, you know, what's a fibroid? I have died. What's a fibroid? I mean, as you'll know, it's a muscular ball found in the uterus and so on. But you actually have to explain. And if you have an image on hand, you have a bank of high quality medically certified images, it goes a very, very long way. Now, the other thing besides, again, just that the dead image, or even if it's got videos and podcasts, the thing that I would urge pharma to do, because I've started doing this and I'm wondering why it took me so long to wake up to this particular opportunity, the whole idea of patient education, in addition to whether it's an educational encounter at Shoppers or some kind of mailing, or even if it's a prompt from some consumer health journal, we now have the opportunity to send e-newsletters, e-contact, and hopefully move up that adherence hill. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a patient who's been either freshly or newly or chronically diagnosed with, name a topic, diabetes, hypertension, hypertriglyceridemia, you name it. We now have the opportunity of not only engaging them through whether it's the IMD, Liberate, or other platform, but actually entering their email and sending not only record of the encounter, even an audio recording if you so choose, but certainly other well-designed, pre-crafted material on whatever condition they're talking about. And if we really get smart, now this is yet to happen, we should actually do this, sign them up so that they can go through an unfolding patient journey, the 1 year post-diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, arthritis, osteoporosis, you name it. Because I think when you have not only a little warm and fuzzy contact from the physician or their office or some kind of healthcare provider, of course, by the way, a one-way email, and no, God forbid that we would ever actually have to reply to any of those emails. That's a different ballgame altogether. But an ongoing spaced repetition contact, I think, is at least, it's available to us, and I think it may be very powerful in terms of, come in patient, why are you not taking your medication? Maybe you got it when you were on vacation. Those 50% that you referred to, Kuhn, earlier, who have just kind of dropped off the map in terms of their adherence, maybe they'll be re-inspired. And by the way, I should also mention, irrespective of the tech savvy of the patient in front of you, there's usually somebody in the household who can open the email, or at least a visiting nephew or somebody who can kind of get them through that e-encounter. So I would say that as patients go through that journey, we can help to personalize it, help to humanize it, help to bring it to life, so using the digital tools that we now have. My next question, pharma companies' worst enemy is the public, the press, government, PAB, their own internal approval times, or each other? Very well distributed. I personally think it's their own internal approval times. I would simply say that let's not wait another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years before, for example, folks in the United States or the EU actually shame us into going digital when we go to conferences in Paris or Brussels or Vienna or wherever and see what the world is about and what they're doing. I think the patients in Canada not only could benefit, but also I think we have the capacity and the capability and certainly the tech savvy in the adoption cycle across the healthcare space. So with that, I would click, maybe not. In any case, thank you very much.